What is up, Packers fans, and welcome to the Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube channel. I am your host, and decidedly not Andy Herman, Ross Uglem. I am the publisher of Packer Report, ready to get you guys ready for this Denver Broncos matchup. Green Bay, I think, 1-7 all time in Denver. Nothing good ever seems to happen there. I think folks will certainly remember the Favre to Jennings. I think it was a Monday Night Football, either Sunday or Monday Night Football. I think it was Monday Night Football. Overtime bomb. But obviously I just said 1-7. I think that was the only one. Last time these two teams played, it seems like this game's always in Denver. I know that that's not the truth. It just seems that way. Was the Romeo Dobbs deflection drop, whatever you want to call it, into Jaden Reed's hands for a touchdown. And then the Jordan Love Samori Toure interception. I don't know what else to call it. I mean, he threw it a double coverage in the receiver with Samori Toure, and Denver won the game. Thankfully, Jordan Love's come a long way since that game. And the Green Bay Packers have come a long way from, I believe, being 5-3-1 to now a 9-3-1 record. Looking at the 1 seed, having the 2 seed, and moving towards, I would guess most of the goals that they set out at the beginning of the season. Got a super chat here. Thank you for the super chat from Ian. Hey, Ross, is it fair to say Watson's route running has drastically improved? He looks really good snapping off his routes this year. No, I wouldn't say that. I think it's more just utilization. You go back to like that Dallas game, his rookie year, and look at the routes he was putting on Deron Bland. I just think it's utilization. I think it's always been kind of utilization with Christian. His issue early in his career was drops. That's definitely been solved, but I wouldn't say route running was a huge issue for him. They're just, with as much as LaFleur likes to run it, and as often as Green Bay, whether it's Love or Rodgers, likes to snap the ball with such little time left on the play clock, there's just not a volume of targets. There's not a volume of attempts. There's not anything that's going to satisfy a box score or satisfy a fantasy football player. But I have not noticed like a significantly I know he works on his craft, but I have not noticed a significantly better route running. I think it was just the fact that they didn't use him as often as they probably should have. Jared, hey Ross, what did the Broncos do well that can exploit the Packers on offense or defense? I mean, they don't do that much well on offense. They run it okay, but now they've lost J.K. Dobbins. Quinn Miners is a really good player. He's on the interior of that offensive line. He's a UW Whitewater product. I don't know that Green Bay has a defensive tackle that matches up well with Quinn Miners. So, running the ball behind him for 4 or 5 yards a pop, trying to kind of chip away at this Packers team is definitely on the menu. I wouldn't want like Nixon one-on-one with Cortland Sutton if you can help it, without some help, right? That's because there aren't a lot of other, Mims is a really good punt returner, but hasn't yet hit necessarily. They don't have, some superstar matchup tight end. It's pretty much just Cortland Sutton as far as guys that you would consider a matchup problem. Now on defense, they have tons of potential matchup problems. You're looking at really good interior defensive rushers. Zach Allen being chief of those. Nick Bonito is an undersized rusher, but one of the best rushers in football. Period. A guy that I loved. Kind of knew that he wasn't going to be a Packer. Talked about him in that pre-draft process quite a bit. But until they started taking like Barron Sorrell and Colin Oliver, they just weren't interested in that kind of pass rusher. Benito was awesome at Oklahoma, and he's continued to be awesome in the pros. So, Nick Benito against Rasheed Walker would be one. Zach Allen against the interior would be one. That would be concerning on the defensive side of the ball. And then he's not had the best season ever. But if you were to draw in a lab a corner that would and if you guys can't tell, I'm a little under the weather. I'm a little stuffed up. I don't normally sound like this, but we fight on. We're questionable. We're day to day, but we fight on. I mean, if you were to drop a cornerback in a lab to try to cover Christian Watson, it would look like Pat Surtain. He's got height, he's got speed, he's got physicality. At the peak of his powers, he's probably the best corner in football. He hasn't quite been at the peak of his powers this year. I think that shows up in some of the coverage statistics, shows up in PFF's coverage grade, shows up on film, most importantly. And with that said, you still aren't excited about going against Pat Surtain II. Ross, I need a way too early mock draft. No, thank you. I haven't watched, guys. Green Bay is too good. They've been, they've been too far over 500 all season for me to really worry about that stuff. I don't have the time. I don't. Joe, odds we franchise tag Rasheed Walker to trade him 5%. They're not going to do that, because if you don't execute the trade, you have Rasheed Walker on a massive contract, because I think it's the average of the top 5 paid tackles in the league. And guess what? Tackles get paid. I would say 5%, maybe 2%. They are going to let Rasheed Walker go. Rasheed Walker is going to get between $18 and $25 million a year to play for another team. And Green Bay is going to get about a 4th round pick in 2027 for all of that. They're going to move Jordan Morgan to left tackle, and that's going to be the way that goes, because they can't carry Rasheed on the franchise tag. They can't afford it, and he's not that guy, pal. He's not that player. They wouldn't want to, for even 1 year, have Sheed paid as a top 2. If it is the top 5, then he's paid as the 2.5 highest paid tackle in football. I don't know. Or maybe it's the average of the top 10 contracts. I don't know. But whatever it is, they're not going to pay it. And I don't know that a different team would pay it unless you worked out like the extension. They're just going to take the comp pick, guys. John, can Watson make Surtain pay for the "we're not scared" comment? I mean, I hope so. Maybe. Like I said, if you built a corner in a lab to cover Christian, it would look like Pat Surtain. With that said, I mean, he hasn't been that guy this year. He'd be the best corner on Green Bay by a reasonable margin, but I'm looking at some of these coverage statistics, and it's okay. It's right, like it's fine, but again, it's not special. He's not doing anything that you'd be, terrified of. I think he's got, let's see here, 1 pick, I think. No, 0 interceptions, 9 PBUs, which is decent. But he's giving up. He's giving up a not insane passer rating. I don't know. I mean, he's just kind of been okay. Like, he certainly hasn't been in his prime. Like I said, he hasn't caught a pick yet. He's just kind of okay. Of guys right now, as far as PFF coverage grades, Surtain is 32nd. So he'd be, and that's by leaps and bounds, not the gospel, but right, he'd be your worst CB1. If he's ranked 32nd and you believed that ranking, he'd be your worst CB1 in the league. Now that's still a good player, but he's not killing everybody this year in the way that he has. And by the way, is very capable of. And maybe he's just getting healthier and healthier. Maybe today he doesn't do anything, but that's the beauty of this, no WR1, which I hate that whole idea, and so does LaFleur. But that's the idea of the no WR1 offense. You want to travel Pat Surtain with Christian? Fine. You're going to have, and I loved him, so I don't like that he's playing not so well, but you're going to have Jaden Reed on Jahdae Barron, right? You're going to have Dontavian Wicks on Riley Moss. You're going to have Matthew Golden on Riley Moss. You're going to have, Luke Musgrave stretching the seam against coverage linebackers that aren't very good. You want to take Christian Watson out of the game? Fine. There's weeks the Packers have taken him out of the game with their own game plan that I don't like, but I mean, there's weeks that they just don't utilize him. So, okay, throw it to Dobbs, throw it to Golden, throw it to Reed, throw it to Wicks, throw it to Musgrave, throw it to whomever. I I don't know that a team, and Riley Moss is okay. He just gets penalized all the time. Riley Moss is a little bit like Keyshawn Nixon. He's okay. I think Riley probably has more ball skills. He was a pretty good interception guy, I think, at Iowa. No picks this year. 9 PBUs and a bunch. Boy, 9 PBUs, no picks, and a bunch of penalties. Riley Moss is Keyshawn Nixon. Key getting his first pick of the year last year. He's usually good for one a season. Last year, Riley Moss won. Yeah, they're very, very similar guys. But yeah, I mean, there are corners and defensive backs that aren't Pat Surtain that you can get, and that's the whole point of the no WR1 offense. Whew. Tulio. Hey, Ross, how's it going? I'm actually pretty optimistic for today's game. J Love has been lights out. Ice in his veins. What are your feelings for the game? Yeah, I mean, they're complicated. I said this, I think, in the game preview. Like, they're better than Denver. They're favored. They should be favored. They should win. And nothing good ever happens in Denver. And I guess at a point, right, like, let's just pretend. And, I think Christian Watson's dad has made this point, like, this version of the Packers, as sad as it is, and unfortunately it's been this way, and it's been this way in the playoffs. Like, they're kind of a dome team. They have great team speed. I don't know that, I think the bad weather is more of an equalizer than an advantage for the Packers at this point. And the weather in Denver today, unless something has changed, is going to be spectacular. So that's maybe a pro Packers thing. Yeah, I've talked about, like, where would you want to play the NFC Championship game? In LA against the Rams, because the crowd would be 50-50 and the playing conditions would be perfect, and Green Bay's team speed would be, super helpful because Musgrave is super fast for his position. Golden and Watson are just regular fast, and they've got fast guys on defense too, especially up front. I think you're the weather, the nice weather in Denver today has a chance to be an advantage. I'll see them beating a decent, because the last time they went out to Denver and lost, the Broncos were 1-5. Like, the next time I see something good happen in Denver will be the first time. So that's why my feelings about this game are complicated. Do we think Jacobs and Wilson are on snap counts today? I don't know, maybe. Pierre Strong Jr. is a decent player. I like that they called him up. I think they can utilize him a little bit if they need to. Chris Brooks, I talk about, like, telegraphing. I've talked about that, and that's one of the reasons why Watson is so unbelievably valuable, is because of what he does in the run game. And, you wouldn't have to just bring in like your Malik Heaths or whatever to run block. Christian can be in for any play. I think they feel like bringing Chris Brooks in says pass, pass, pass. Like, hey, guys, this is our pass pro and screen back. Now that he's standing next to Jordan Love, we're not running the ball. I think they want to avoid that. I think it makes a ton of sense to avoid that. But if you got to keep guys healthy for the stretch run, you got to keep guys healthy for the stretch run. This game is important, but I would argue that it is the least important of their final 4 games. You want to protect home field against Baltimore. And then obviously this game isn't as important as Minnesota or Chicago. I think they should be smart. Now, you play to win every game. You should certainly play to win this game, but not if it costs you a key player down the stretch, I would say. Okay. Something I've always heard is a great way to neutralize a great pass rush is a screen game, which has noticeably been lacking for Green Bay this season. I don't know that I agree with that. Hoping MLF has a couple up his sleeve today. I mean, the screen game in general hasn't been lacking because they've gotten Tucker Kraft to kill people on screens. Now he's gone, and you don't really have that player. And I don't know if they really have that player on offense in the tailback room. I mean, that player is MarShawn Lloyd. And MarShawn Lloyd, like, can't get on the field. Chris Brooks is decent at it. And yeah, I mean, I think you'll see probably more the quick passing game then you'll see the screen game try to beat this pass rush. I think if they're going to throw it, and the rush is beating them, you're going to see, immediate wins. And that's why Watson's so important. That's why they drafted Golden. That's why Wicks is so important, is winning fast and winning against man coverage, because you saw that last year when Wicks and Watson weren't available and they didn't have Golden on the team. Nobody was beating man coverage, and teams would go man and Green Bay would score, 10, 13, whatever, how many points. It's very important. Hui. Okay. Yeah. Are you worried about MarShawn Lloyd ever living up to being a third round pick? Always seems to be hurting him. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say any of this is really his fault. From what you've seen of him actually playing football or practicing football. And I think people need to get a little bit more of a grip on what a third round pick really means. But um, yeah, everything from a skill set standpoint, and can I be good? Can I be helpful? Everything we've ever seen him do, whether it's a preseason or practice, would say that he was exactly worth a top 100 pick from a talent perspective. But you'd be nuts, I think, right now, to go. I think you'd be nuts right now to not be concerned. Like, you have to be concerned about what's going on. And it's crazy because obviously he was able to be productive in college. He was able to stay on the field in college. He played for both South Carolina and USC, and played in games. And now he simply can't play in games in the pros, because this most physical position in the league thing really doesn't have anything to do with anything. He's having soft tissue injuries that are happening in practice, and when people aren't hitting him, when he's, reaching top speed and stuff like that. Like, most physical position in the league doesn't matter to what is happening to him. This is a body composition issue and a unbelievable uh an unbelievable string of bad luck, that just, you hate to see it. But yeah, I mean, you have to be worried at this point, I would say. Golden is GB's fastest. Well, even if that's true, it doesn't really matter. I don't know that is true, on GPS. I mean, yeah, the recorded 40 times, but I would love to watch Christian run against Reed, but I don't know why this is an important thing to say right now. Big Bo plan. I don't know. This is 11 a.m. Um, this is an 11 a.m. preview show for a 3:15 game, so that's obviously a little bit unique. Um, but yeah, it's a good question. Denver has been okay. Pretty good running the football. Again, I think a lot of that is that J.K. Dobbins has been pretty good. And I don't know if what you think of RJ Harvey. I've kind of viewed RJ Harvey as more of a um like a pass receiving back, not a gimmicky back, because that's not fair, because he's really good. I always loved Jaleel McLaughlin. That's a Youngstown State guy. That's a FCS guy. But they're they're good because Garrett Bowles and Quinn Miners are awesome, right? And Mike McGlinchey is like decidedly above average this year. Um, that's why it's they're impressive. Again, like, RJ Harvey's more of a guy that I'd throw it to. But he's been good, and they're gonna run the ball. So Bohanna might help. But we won't get inactives until more than midway through the noon games. So I don't have the answer for that. Um, I don't know that is true. I'm reading elevated Pierre Strong Jr., which is true, and put Emmanuel Wilson on IR. No, unless you mean injury report. I don't believe that this is true, that Emmanuel Wilson is on injured reserve. I think he's sick, and there might be a snap count. I don't think this is correct for what it's worth, and I'm not trying to make fun of you. I don't think that this is correct. I think when you say IR, you mean injury report, but I would not use that phrase moving forward. IR means injured reserve. Why don't they try to get Jordan Morgan snaps to compete at left tackle with Walker if that's his natural position? And Walker has struggled more this year because continuity is incredibly important on the offensive line. It's you'd have to have a pretty clear bar to want to play Morgan over Sheed in games that matter. You got to understand that Sheed has been like a slightly above average, and this year maybe a slightly below average, but Sheed has been like a slightly above average left tackle for a lot of snaps in a row. And that continuity is incredibly important on an offensive line, especially with as much shuffling around that has gone on in the middle. And part of it too, as much as you wouldn't want to hear it, is the comp pick aspect of it. The Packers want to get as much value for Sheed on his next contract because it benefits the Packers. And you also have, I think, Morgan in a position where he's been playing multiple spots on the offensive line. He's certainly a more valuable backup offensive lineman than Sheed is. Sheed at this point does one thing, and that is play left tackle. And it has admittedly not been awesome this year, but it's still like, I mean, I wish Packers fans would watch more games of, and maybe you do, I don't know, but I wish Packers fans would watch more games of other teams. Sheed is for sure better than like 10 or 12 starting left tackles in the league, if not 13 or 14 starting left tackles in the league. There's some really, really bad left tackle play out there. You'd want to get more than they've gotten out of Morgan, certainly, especially considering some of the guys that they, didn't draft and drafted him. But if he's an above average starting left tackle next year and plays 2 years in the 5th-year option, you've gotten a first round pick out of him for sure. And I think he's going to be better at left tackle than he has been inside, especially switching positions is one thing, but they also switch him from left to right. I would say that position he was least suited to play coming out of Arizona, where he only played left tackle, would have been right guard, and that's where they chose to play him. I didn't love that, but yeah, that's what they kind of chose to do here. All righty. Okay. No. Injury report. Injured reserve is a different thing. I don't care how they win, but I think the offense should run through Watson with 7 to 10 targets a game. Yeah, I mean, I agree. He's their best offensive player. But again, that's the point of the LaFleur offense, which, by the way, we can check FTN right now. Just for the folks that need to kind of understand how good Green Bay's offense is, they are currently 3rd in the league in DVOA, 2nd in the league in pass DVOA. They are not good. They are elite. And it's because of the way that Matt runs it. Now, could they be 2nd or 1st? Yeah, I guess. But it's fine the way they're doing it. No, it's not fine. It's elite the way that they're doing it now. And I want more, maybe more than anyone in the world. I want more than, more targets for Watson. But this offense is not designed to force feed anyone. This offense is designed for your defense to be guessing on every play. And that's why it's a top 3 offense in football and a top 2 passing offense in football, is because they don't force it to anybody. Jacobs is kind of hurting. Wilson is 6. Elevate strong. They did. They did elevate strong. That happened. Guys, I don't think this matters. I agree with you. I think that certainly shows up on. He's definitely football faster than Golden, but I don't think that this is incredibly important to be discussing this close to game time. Yeah, not seeing any more questions. We're not necessarily going to wrap this up right now. But like I said, my general thoughts on the game are those of confusion. I think there's a reason Green Bay's favored in this game. There's a reason, they are better than Denver on a neutral field. Certainly at Lambeau Field, you'd like Green Bay, and obviously Vegas likes Green Bay in this game. It's just goofy. It's a different team, right? It's a AFC team that you only have to play ever so many years unless you line up with them in the standings. It is a unique travel. Obviously, everybody talks about the altitude and the elevation, but they talk about it because it's real. And they're not a bad football team, right? I think they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. I mean, they are over their skis. Mean people would say that they're fraudulent. When you're talking about, like, does their record match how good of a football team they are? Are they an 11-2 football team? I don't think so, but you can only play who's on your schedule. And I think, it just, like I said, man, weird stuff happens. Weird stuff happens in Denver. Yeah, I I don't know. I don't know what to think of this game. I think that the number one thing is forcing Bo Nix to beat you. I don't have it. Like Bo Nix is. I think I had a high second round grade on him. He was ranked like 33rd for me in that class. I thought you could get this out of him. I thought if you had a really good kind of offensive line, offensive structure, you could protect him a little bit and pair him with a good defense. He would not lose you games. And lo and behold, that's exactly what he's doing. But he probably wouldn't be the reason that you win. And so I think, talking about Bohanna and whether he's going to be up or not, I think makes a lot of sense. I think, their ability to stop the run and not let Denver have 2nd and 4 is going to be important. I don't think you want Denver in 2nd and short. I think I think getting a lead in this game would be big. You just want to put the game in Bo Nix's hands. I think as much as possible, and that might sound mean, obviously, to Bo Nix, but I just think you gotta absolutely make him win. I think you, I don't know about selling out to stop the run, but man, if they're in 2nd and 8 all day, I think that's going to be a long day for this Denver offense. That's like very average. And Green Bay's defense is better than them. I mean, it's a matchup win for Green Bay, certainly. This offense, you've seen them shut down better offenses than this. Detroit 2 times would certainly be one of those. Even, I don't know where Chicago ranks, but I certainly like Chicago's weaponry more than I like Denver's as far as, the tailbacks and the 2 tight ends are supposed to be good, and the DJ Moore of it all, and the Luther Burden of it all. And I know they didn't have to play a Dunze, but there's more dudes, I think, on Chicago than there are on Denver on the offensive side of the ball. Right, where do you think this team would be without one? I mean, I don't think they'd have the same record, but I'd just caution people, and this isn't to make light of the Parsons signing. I think it was a massive deal. I think he's a very, very good player. I think he's incredibly important. I think he raises their ceiling. But I think you would, I would just caution. Like, Jeff Hafley's a very, very good football coach. Okay. He took a very, very similar defense personnel-wise, very similar defense personnel-wise last year, and was good. So if you give Green Bay back Kenny Clark and give Dallas back Micah Parsons, I'm not saying Green Bay is better. They aren't. but they would not be lost, I don't think. I mean, it's guys, it's the same defense from last year. Like Keyshawn's still there, Bullard, Valentine, right? The safeties are still the same. Quay and Cooper, like this is all the same dudes that were good defense last year. They're a better defense this year because of Micah Parsons. But I've heard some commentary that's like, oh, Parsons, he's the most valuable defensive player in the league, or the Packers would suck without him. We've literally seen this Packers defense without Micah, and it was pretty good. Certainly the best defensive performance last year against the Eagles in the playoffs, absolutely including the Super Bowl. This defense without Parsons is functional, but he's very, very good and very important. And that was a very good trade for the Green Bay Packers. How do you think Rasheed matches up against Benito? Worried that he might be in for a rough game. I think he matches up fine. Sheed's an awesome athlete. I actually worry more about power rushers with Sheed than I do fast guys. And Benito's a top 4 or 5 rusher in this league right now. So he might get his, but I actually worry more about, because Sheed's kind of a waist bender, but man, he's a really, really good athlete. He's got good feet. Benito's undersized. He's more of a speed rusher. I think Sheed can stay in front of him. I mean, he might get him once. That's how many times Sweat got him. Like, people speak, and I think Andy probably has a little bit to do with this, because he's mentioned how Sheed's having a worse season than he did last year, and he probably is. With that said, guys, Sheed has given up 28 pressures in 14 games, 2 a game. That's it. He's given up 1 QB hit and 5 sacks. So he gets Jordan Love hit once every 3 games. No, closer to once every 2 games. But he's given up 1 hit and 5 sacks and literally 28 pressures. So 2 pressures a game. Now, is 2 pressures a game great? No, but it's fine. It's okay. There's a lot worse players out there that are getting big time snaps. And I think people kind of, because he's not playing as well, or Andy's been a little bit hard on him or whatever, that are like, this guy stinks. This guy does not stink. This guy is actually pretty darn good. It's just he's not playing as well as he was, and there are obviously better. There are better players than him out there. But if you like PFF, and I know a lot of people don't, a lot of people do, but like right now, his pass blocking grade for all tackles ranks 32nd. And of course there would be 64 tackles, right? Zach Tom ranks 9th, so shout out to both their tackles. But here's some names that are below him. Ekwonu from the Carolina Panthers that people really, really like. Morgan Moses, people really like him. Walker Little, J.C. Latham, Fuaga, Mims, certainly Tyler Guyton in Dallas. He's just kind of average, and I think people are just being tough on him. And he can play better and should play better, but I think perception is not quite meeting reality with Sheed. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to get ready for the noon games. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate that. Thank you for the 2 super chats. Yeah, I'm very interested. This game is not a free roll, but it's as close as it gets. I think this late in the season, if you wanted the Packers to go 3-1 and finish with 12 wins, this would be the one you probably have to lose. But this win, losing this game would you need to beat Chicago next week. That would put the trip to Chicago in a category where it's like, yeah, there's no option here to lose this football game. You got to win this football game. So this would be some found money. A win in Denver would be some found money against the number 1 overall seed. They're favored. I think they got a chance. I think they got as good a chance as anybody. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, guys, and go Pack Go.